Sherman has done it again. Nicholas, a thing of beauty.
Welcome on in. Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. As you can tell, we are not at the Heineken Pub 97 at the Private Bank Fire Pitch. We are here at Toyota Park getting ready for the unified game, the homegrown game, as we are in the midst of All-Star Weekend. That's right, the MLS All-Stars taking on Real Madrid at Soldier Field on Wednesday evening. Fred Hubner, Paul Tenorio, Frank Lopez, and we've got a cast of thousands joining us throughout the next hour right here from Toyota Park. And guys, it's always great to see all the stars, not only the stars, but the media come into town. Everybody come to town and get ready for this All-Star game.
I thought, Fred, you're going to sing a song, first of all, so I got
just
excited.
Before we're done.
No, you're right. I think there is some, couple great days already. I think, Paul and I went to the skill challenge the other day. And
Did you challenge Paul or did
No.
Oh, okay.
We were just watching the other guys and said, we can take this, guys, no problem. We just wanted to.
We don't want to embarrass, you got stars out there, Brian McBride and guy. If I had gone out there, I would have shown them all up,
Yeah, it was great. I mean, there was a great turnout. You had some MLS All-Stars and obviously some legends. McBride was there, De Rosario was there. So it was fun. It's just starting. So I'm looking really forward to tonight, the unified game at 4:30, and then the homegrown. I see some really future stars in the league, one of our own, Georgi Mihalovic, and obviously being coached by two soccer legends here, Brian McBride and Mike McGee. And I saw Mike the other day. We were training, and he got on the field. He might want to get in there and play tonight.
That'd be nice to see. Lots of events going on. It all started last week with the watch party out at the Private Bank Fire Pitch. We'll discuss the Chicago Fire's loss a little bit later on. But then you had beach soccer. You had the skills competition. Lots of other things going on there. You see the watch party not only for the Chicago Fire game, but also for El Clasico down in Miami, which drew a huge crowd. Some former Fire players, some current Fire players with Gonzalo Segares and Brandon Vincent. He's smiling. I'd like to see him on the field.
And also some Real Madrid legends in the past. Christian Carambeu and Mendieta were there, I think, because you had the Barcelona-Real Madrid game earlier.
Well, it was funny, Kaká was talking at the first training session. He talked about coming in out of the city and seeing the beaches. He said, it reminded me of Ibiza, looking at all the boats in the lake. I said,
oh my God.
Ibiza, Chicago, I've never heard that comparison. But
come on, Ibiza, just look at the water. I don't know if it's as clear as...
Exactly.
Well, and it seems like all the stars, too. I mean, you come to a city like Chicago, they get a chance to come here. Now, usually when they get here, they come in the day before a game, the night before a game, and now they get the opportunity to enjoy all that the city of Chicago has to offer them.
Listen, we've had great weather. I mean, for us, we know how great the city is, and I think it's an opportunity for the rest of the world and the rest of the country. You got the MLS All-Stars here, but also Real Madrid coming in town for a couple of days. And listen, that's all it takes sometimes with some of these guys, to really see where the sport has come in this country, and then you're going to see a sellout crowd tomorrow with a lot of quality. That's what happened when Schweinsteiger came. Mm-hmm. He was at the All-Star game in Portland. They said, "Man, what a great atmosphere! This league is growing. Why not take an opportunity and look at this next challenge and come to MLS?"
Yeah, exactly that. He said that today at the press conference. Bastian was talking about being on the bench in Portland next to his brother. He had just flown over from the World Cup, and he was looking at the atmosphere, and he said, wouldn't it be nice to play in MLS one day? And he said, he hopes that the atmosphere tomorrow at Soldier Field will leave an impression on some of the Real Madrid players and maybe prompt them to come to MLS as well. So I think that's always a part of the All-Star game. It's not just about the soccer on the field, but it's about showcasing Major League Soccer around the world. That's why I think the format works the way it does, playing against teams like Real Madrid, Tottenham, because people in other countries watch the game to see how MLS will stack up. It's a little bit of a lose-lose. If you win the game, they're in preseason. If you lose the game, they have so far to go to catch up. But I think there's a lot of entertainment out of the format the way it is.
I agree with you, and I think more than anything is the exposure. I think this is a game that's televised worldwide. I mean, and forget about. No one really is going to take the players want to play well,
right?
But you have an opportunity to see some great players from the MLS side, and then obviously one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world. So you'll see some high-level soccer, but more than anything, I agree with Paul. It's the exposure from the league in a game like this that you wouldn't get otherwise.
How tough is it to throw all these superstars from teams around the league, throw them together, trying to get them to go on the pitch to play against one of the best teams in the world?
I mean, it's not easy, definitely when you come together, and some teams play Saturday, some teams play Sunday. You have one training session with the guys, but I think it's just about getting the guys organized, making sure they're all on the same page with set pieces, this or that. And I think the guys understand because they do want to go out there and put a good show, and I know that they will.
Yeah, it's funny, Zidane was saying today in the press conference, from his perspective, he doesn't know what to expect from this team at all. He doesn't know what formation they're going to play, who's going to be starting. He doesn't know some of these guys. He said, from the Real Madrid side, they just have to be very focused on what they want to do. They're just about a week away from their first game of the season. So they have some things that they want to accomplish in this game. And I think that adds a little bit to it as well. I mean, yes, it's a friendly, but because it's their last preseason game before the real games start, they want to make sure that they're sharp.
That's what I agree with them. And I mean, they're looking the last game before they start. They want to play a tough opponent. I think this is what the MLS team will bring.
We'll talk more about the MLS All-Stars as we gear up for the All-Star game coming up tomorrow night at Soldier Field. But don't forget, right here on the pitch behind us, the Chicago Fire return to Toyota Park this coming weekend. It is a 7:30 start as they take on the New England Revolution. 7 o'clock pregame. If you can't get out here, I don't know why you can't get out here. The Fire red hot at home. They have not lost the season at home. The $2 hot dogs presented by Red Hot Chicago. Just don't be behind me because it may be a long way.
You're excited about that.
I sure am. There's no doubt. Chicago-fire.com for tickets. We come back. We'll talk more about Major League Soccer, the All-Star Game, the Chicago Fire. We've just gotten started. Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Heineken tastes perfect every single time, and that doesn't happen by accident. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster, almost as long as it took me to master this look.
She came to meet a man. She found an angel. Good, ba-da-da-da. What's his name now? Good, ba-da-da-da.
Still practicing. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster. There's more behind the star.
The heat will wear you out real quick. And we've been through some hot ones. It's very physical. You gotta take care of your body and stay hydrated because every moment matters. That's why I drink Advocare Hydrate. I've got a job to do.
Oh, honey, it's time.
To go back to Lowe's? Yeah, this Valspar paint and primer in one really freed up the afternoon. Hey, how do you feel about tackling the kitchen?
Ooh, not great.
Okay, well, maybe we could finish up the basement then. I always wanted to get a pool table down there. I'm a bit of a shark.
And your wife is very much a pregnant chameleon.
Oh, what about a bar?
John.
Yo, that time.
Yeah.
Clean paint starts here. Save time with Valspar's paint and primer in one interior paints exclusively at Lowe's.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. We're out here at Toyota Park getting ready for the unified game, the homegrown game right here in the midst of MLS All-Star Week. Paul Tenorio, Frank Lopez, you should know this guy, Andrew Wiebe from MLSsoccer.com and also Extra Time Radio. You guys had a chance to talk with the commissioner this morning. We'll get to some of that. But also, you're calling the games tonight.
We are. We're getting ready for it, hoping the weather stands up. But a great opportunity for some young players to get a chance to play on this beautiful pitch here behind me. And then the homegrowns, on Extra Time, we got a phrase. It's the hype trains. Those are the kids we love to watch, the kids that are either the stars now or will be the stars later. So it's going to be a fun time. Make sure you tune in out there.
Well, being out at the home ground, who's your favorite in the game? Who's the hype train that you're really going to get rolling tonight?
Okay, so my heart is a little bit broken. I have to admit, Blue Tabla's not here. Alphonso Davies is not here. I've loved seeing those Canadian guys really stand out. But they brought in Eric Palmer-Brown late, and I'm a guy from Kansas. I see him, I see Justin Glad, and I like these young center backs coming up from else, getting chances to play, excelling, becoming really, really good players. And then Tyler Adams, U20 World Cup star, so young, so talented, so driven. Every time we've talked to him on Extra Time Radio, I've walked away just absolutely wowed. How a kid like this can be so mature, so professional, so ready for this environment, so young, that gives me a lot of hope for the future. With the investments in the academies, it's all going forward. We might have some crowded rails here going forward. The hype trains, man, they're coming through.
How about our own Georgi Mihalovic, man? I mean, you know.
Hey, maybe that's a pronunciation issue. I got to get that.
No.
I think across the league, every single club, their investments are paying off, and it's across the board. And you know what Chicago is. We know how rich the talent is here. It's just a matter of time before each of these clubs starts having 2, 3, 4 starters that came out of their academy systems. You have to have coaches that give them that opportunity, though, Frank.
No, but you know what? We were talking earlier about this because before the academy structure, if you look at the history in the past and the amount of players that have come from Chicago and have come and have played at an extremely high level, you can talk about McBride, McGee, Guzan. I would even say Michael Bradley because in his young years he came here. So with the structure now, how many players do you foresee? Do you foresee 2 or 3 players coming out every year, or that just depends?
Look, I think it depends because the path is different for every player. The college system is going to turn some people's heads, but I hope that we get to a place where parents see and players see these MLS academies and these first teams as the place to advance both of themselves, but also to have an opportunity to get an education. You can still go to school and do this. I'm hopeful. I'm one of those guys that's very optimistic, that looks forward and says, you know what, for a lot of clubs, Real Salt Lakes of the world, the ones that are really looking to build from within, I hope there's 6, 7 guys that are first-team players, contributors, and I think we could see that in the next 5, 6 years. Real Salt Lake right now might actually have that with some of these players.
I just did a story that came out today for 442 on exactly that, the best young cores in Major League Soccer. Real Salt Lake does have right now 6 or 7 kids, 21, 22 years old, 4 or 5 of them from their academy, a couple other that they brought in from abroad. But it's a very, very young lineup. You look at a team like that, you look at FC Dallas and some of the young players they brought in. Kellen Acosta, to me, is probably the best advertisement for Major League Soccer because he started playing at FC Dallas's academy when he was 12 years old, came up through the system, turned pro as a homegrown, as a teenager, worked his way up through the first team, now is a national team player who's going to move and make the jump to Europe. That is the model for Major League Soccer going forward. And I think Tyler Adams is the next great example of it, too. He was 10 years old when he started playing with the Red Bulls in their system and then moving, of course, into the development academy at a later age. And now he's a starter in Major League Soccer. I mean, this is where the league is going. And it's different even than when I first started covering the league not that long ago, 2007. But Bill Hamid and Andy Nahar were the homegrowns. And don't get me wrong, they're great examples. But they were a little bit different. The academy was only around for 1 year when they joined. So they didn't develop through that system as much as some of these kids that we're seeing now. And I think that, to me, is why these homegrown games are getting more and more exciting every year. Because these are players that are being developed within Major League Soccer academies, and we're finally seeing that pipeline really start to turn out high-end products and high-end players.
Well, you talked about coaching, Andrew. Is there any chance that Brian McBride or Mike McGee can screw any of these young kids up?
No, I don't think there's any chance of that. I don't think they'll try to do that as well. You mentioned McGee. I heard he was all-time attack in training. Mike doesn't. He's not tracking back. We know he wants to score goals. He wants to deliver that final pass.
My favorite moment he made a run to the back post and they didn't play the ball and he threw his arms up.
He would. Mike Aquino would have found me.
Yesterday he made sure he was a neutral so he can attack on both teams. He said,
I think the best thing though is the aspirational quality. When you talk about the Kellen Acostas of the world, the 9-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, the 11-year-olds, all up to 18, they can look at these guys and they see them every week now, and it's in front of their face, and there's a pathway that they can follow. I hope they're watching. I hope they're paying attention to the habits, and I know you are too. I hope they replicate them. I hope we have a new generation that we can look at for years to come.
Well, and you talked to the commissioner today, you and your partner David Goss on Extra Time Radio and Extra Time Live, and I was watching, and he talked a lot, too, about the development, how important that is, and it's just awesome to see it out here. And Georgi Mihalovic and all the other guys, and the kids that watch it, the people that come on out here tonight, they'll say, listen, I want to be on that pitch.
Absolutely, and if they don't, then maybe that's not a person that you should be investing resources in as a club. That's a choosing point. And right now I think it is players getting better, but I think it's also coaches getting better and being better at recognizing talent and pushing them along at the right pace to get them in that first team when they're ready, because that really is the key.
I agree with you with that, and I think we've gotten better over time with that. But I think for me also a big help with some of these young guys, when you bring guys over here like a guy like Schweinsteiger and the ability of Georgi Mihalovic now, because I've talked to Georgi, I've talked to his dad, and he says, man, to spend time with this guy, not only with Georgi, but with all the young players, and then just give them feedback, just make them understand what it really takes, to play at the highest level and be consistent every day. I mean, 5 minutes with him can do. I can spend with Georgie 1 hour as a coach, but I think speaking with him 5 or 10 minutes every day, I think, and having guys like that can give back that knowledge, and it's fantastic.
Andrew, before we let you go, what's the best time for people to catch you guys?
Mondays and Thursdays, download us on iTunes, subscribe, and Extra Time Live, wrapping up the league every single Sunday at 8 p.m. So tune with us. You can hit in the comments section, have fun with us. We love the league. You do too if you're watching. So tune in, have fun.
Andrew, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt.
We come back. We'll continue talking about the MLS All-Star Game, which takes place tomorrow night. You can't forget the Chicago Fire this weekend. They return to Toyota Park, where they're 9-0-1 so far this season. You may hear that again later on today. But Chicago Fire Weekly, we come right back. It's presented by the Private Bank.
Ah, another truckload of Toyotas. What a sight.
Yeah, during Toyota's national clearance event, we've got the last of the 2017s. And super low APR financing.
Maybe that's why they go so fast.
Okay, that's got to be a record.
Right now, get incredible 0% APR for 72 months on a new 2017 Camry or RAV4 during Toyota's national clearance event.
Save on the last of the 2017s. Come in today.
Toyota, let's go places.
You can't experience the Canadian Rockies through a screen. You have to be here with us. Travel through this natural wonder and get a glimpse of amazing. With a glass of wine in one hand and a camera in the other. Aboard Rocky Mountaineer. Canada's Rocky Mountains await. Call your travel agent or Rocky Mountaineer for special offers now.
Rain. Driving. Pounding, soaking. Your home is constantly threatened by storms, causing worrisome basement seepage problems. We've waterproofed over 300,000 Chicagoland homes, and we know how important yours is. Schedule your free consultation today at uswaterproofing.com. US Waterproofing, a better basement starts with us.
Before each week's NASCAR race, enter the Chicagoland Speedway sweepstakes at csnchicago.com/speedway and tell us who you think will win that weekend's race. Then be sure to tune in every Tuesday to CSN as the president of Chicagoland Speedway, Scott Paddock, joins Sports Talk Live. If he randomly selects your entry, you'll win tickets to the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Tale of the Turtles 400 on September 17th in Joliet. Plus, you'll be entered to win the grand prize, a trip for two to the 2017 NASCAR Awards ceremony in Las Vegas.
Back, Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank. We are at Toyota Park as we've got the unified game, the homegrown game. It's MLS All-Star Week. Paul Tenorio, Frank Klopas, and we have someone here in the middle that was nice enough to let the people of Orlando exactly know what soccer's all about. She writes for the Orlando Sentinel, Alicia Delgado. Thanks a lot for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
And so Paul, you know this guy here. He was learning, under you, and then he kicked him out, or how's that work?
Yeah, I told him to get lost. It was, he was past his prime, so we needed to move on.
Listen, you know what? The best thing was Alicia and I used to share a desk. She used to sit right behind me, and so. I had to keep her on her toes. So every time I came in, I'd shake her chair because she'd be so focused on what she was writing.
I forgot about that until
that was
now.
the tradition. So I hope that someone's there still giving her a hard time. I know Orlando City probably is because I had to deal with them for many years. But, she does a fantastic job down in Orlando.
No, I was going to say we can get the real story now from Alicia because, we heard all the stories from Paul.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
But we're happy to have
they
him
all
here.
know
We're happy to have
whatever
him.
I say is true. I don't lie.
Well,
I agree with that.
Speaking of Orlando, I mean, the new stadium, everything that's been going on down there, it's got to be so exciting for the area.
The fans are really excited about everything that's been happening. The stadium up and running, creating a completely different atmosphere than what was there before because they were playing in a 60,000 plus capacity stadium at Camping World. So that's really kind of changed the game for them. And the new big signing, Dom Dwyer, everyone was excited about that. Met him at the airport. I'm sure you guys saw the videos of all that. So it's been a busy and buzzing time down there.
That's what I was going to say. I talked to Paul about it because when I saw the clips at the airport, I was really amazed. I was thinking, man, this is like the fans are really passionate, behind the team. And I feel like it's the one place that there's not a lot of places maybe in the league with that you do really feel the pressure and the pressure from the fans, to compete, to play well every time you put the jersey, and it showed by the support. This guy went to the airport. I was like, holy cow, this was like when Drogba came to Montreal.
Yeah, it kind of probably maybe showed him a little bit, gave him pressure, like you said, that he's showing up here. He can't just kind of skate by. He needs to perform for these fans and this fan base that is so, passionate about the players. And it's not just the Orlando City players, it's the players for the whole club. They did the same thing when Marta was signed and came to the airport. They showed up. They're constantly asking me flight details, when they're going to arrive, what can we do, hashtag Marta Watch and hashtag Welcome Home Dom were trending that night. So it's
Did
it's
they
a big
show
deal.
up when Paul was leaving to celebrate or no? No.
I had a large send-off.
Yeah.
It was mostly my wife clapping as
you left. So, Alicia, you would probably have been up here anyway, but now there's another All-Star, as Kaká was going to be here anyway. Now Dom Dwyer gets added to it. What do you think it's like coming out, and how many other of these All-Star events and games have you been to?
So I was at the All-Star game last year for Kaká, and Kyle Aaron was there as well. And I was kind of expecting just Kaká, planning interviews and things around him and stories around him, and then had to completely revamp my my coverage schedule last week and check in with the PR team and make sure that I could get with Dom. So I talked to him Dom a little bit the other day, and I said, I don't know if you saw the All-Star roster in advance, but is it strange now, instead of having Sporting Kansas City in brackets next to your name, it says Orlando City? And he said, no, it's exciting. It's kind of cool. I love it. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of people around the league may not remember about Dwyer is that he was with Orlando City to the other team down there, the USL team.
Yeah, it actually kind of reinvigorated his career, got him going. He came down on loan from Sporting Kansas City. Adrian Heath was the coach of the USL team there, and just unlocked something in Dom Dwyer. I talked to Dom about it in Portland actually a few years ago at the All-Star game when they played Bayern Munich and Bastian Schweinsteiger. And Dom was saying, what Adrian did was just pushed me to that next level, and he unlocked parts of my game that just weren't translating. Scored a ton of goals in USL. Goes back to Sporting Kansas City and continues scoring there. Won a USL Cup with Orlando City, then won an MLS Cup just a few weeks later with Sporting Kansas City. So, I think it'll be good. The fans love Dom Dwyer, and he has a good understanding. He's a passionate player, so he feeds off of energy. I think it's unfortunate almost for Orlando City that it's 3 weeks till their next home game. It kind of steals that moment from Dom Dwyer. But I thought he was an interesting pick for the All-Star game as well. Tomorrow's game, you look at the roster, the commissioner gets 2 picks. He brings in Dom Dwyer and Kellen Acosta. I think that was a decision made with a distinct idea of these are 2 players that have been talked about in the market. Obviously, Dom ends up getting traded for $1.6 million in allocation. Kellen Acosta could end up moving to Europe. You put these guys on a stage where everyone gets to see them, because they're buzzy names. And I expect them to kind of live up to that hype a little bit.
Alicia, we talked earlier about the Major League Soccer All-Stars playing a good team, one of the best teams in the world. Are you all for that? Do you like the East-West? I know earlier today they had asked the commissioner about an America-Mexico game.
Yeah.
What do you think about these?
No, I kind of like the format the way it is right now. I think that in terms of what the goals are for a lot of the clubs in the league and growing the brand, especially worldwide, I think this is the best format to do that and lend itself to that. And I also think that it does bring more excitement around it, brings fans who maybe aren't fully on board with MLS yet, but they're going to come and they're going to showcase themselves in front of those fans because of who they're playing.
Alicia Delgado joining us from the Orlando Sentinel here at Toyota Park. We're getting ready for the Unified game, also the homegrown game. And don't forget the All-Star game coming up tomorrow night at Soldier Field. They kick a little after 8 o'clock. As the Chicago Fire with 4 participants in the game. There you see Nemanja Nikolic and also Bastian Schweinsteiger. Don't forget Johan Kappelhoff and also Dax McCarty for the Chicago Fire. The game coming up tomorrow evening. We'll continue our conversation talking about the MLS All-Star game. We'll get to the Chicago Fire as they come back home this coming Saturday to take on New England. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
The blades of a combat chopper spin at 380 RPMs. Not even close to an Echo trimmer. Now that's shock and awe. Power on and on.
give up. We don't quit. We keep going. Day in, day out. We fight on. Why? Because we are champions. Be a champion.
Don't let pain knock you out of the ring. Our hand, wrist, and elbow experts are pioneers worldwide. You need us in your corner. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today. After our minimally invasive spine surgery, 80% of golfers maintained or improved their handicap. Be treated by the pros to play more like a pro. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today.
Than the winds of a Cat 5 hurricane? An Echo backpack blower. So, yeah, it'll clear a path. Power on and on.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank. Fred Hubner, Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio. And in the middle we have Alicia Delgado from the Orlando Sentinel. Major League Soccer All-Star Game coming up tomorrow. And I know, Alicia, sometimes when we cover the game, we get a little jaded. We say, oh, it's maybe another game. But do you still get excited for an All-Star Game?
I get excited because of I get to come here. I get to spend 4 days meeting and seeing people that I haven't seen all year, or maybe see once or twice a year. This guy here, a couple of other,
get excited
people. So yeah, it's overall good event, I think, for everybody involved.
I mean, I think there are these cool moments, right, where the other day you're out of training and they're running 5v2. And it's Miguel Almiron, Kaká, Schweinsteiger, Valeri, Piatti, and the touches that these guys are making. And, you see Kaká in the middle of a 5v2 for 25 passes. That doesn't happen very often. Kaká, when you reach a certain level and you're 5v2 and you get in the middle, what do? Frank? You tell the young guy you get in instead of me. That wasn't my fault. It was your bad
You get in, or you start grabbing your cab or something. It's getting tight.
Stars don't go in the middle in 5v2.
No, but I think I agree with both of you. I think this is an opportunity to connect with some friends that you haven't seen in a while. You're in a great city, but for me, I mean, the quality and the team, I'm more excited about that also. You have a team coming in Real Madrid. I mean, domestically, they won the La Liga 33 times. In the continent, they've won the European Championship with a cup that it was once called 12 times, and they've done it 3 times in a row. So you have you have the best team in the world coming in. Don't look past the All-Stars, because you have 3 guys on the All-Star team with Schweinsteiger, Kaká, David Villa. They've won the World Cup themselves, and you have some dynamic and very exciting young players. So for me, I'm looking at this game and I'm saying, man, if you're a soccer fan, I mean, I don't care where you live, anywhere in this country, you got an opportunity to come, watch the training sessions and be at this game. I mean, it's a no miss.
What's crazy is you talk about those 3 guys, and if you're talking about soccer in the last 20 years, all 3 of those guys would rank in the top 15 of players in the modern era, but they would all rank behind another guy that's going to be in the stadium. The guy I got most excited to see today, Zidane, who's coaching Real Madrid. And for me, it's one of those moments. I very rarely in my job have I been awestruck or kind of looked at it from that perspective. And the one moment previous to this in my life was Francesco Totti coming with Roma. I was a big Totti fan. But today, watching Zidane in the press conference, I mean, you just still feel like he could walk out on the field and play with just about anybody in the world. And I think about that left-footed volley he hit in the Champions League final, upper 90, and it'll be exciting just to have him in the town as well, and to get a chance to listen to his ideas today in the press conference about what he wants to do with this team this season.
You guys talk about the importance of the game. I mean, it's a game. You're playing Real Madrid, but also around the world, they're going to watch us. and they're going to see Schweinsteiger, and they're going to see Villa and Kaká. But do you think that's going to entice maybe some of the other players that are around, maybe some of the younger guys, because Almiron is a young guy, and there's other young players in the league. You see Jonathan Dos Santos just signed down with the Galaxy. How much of a promotional thing do you think this is for Major League Soccer?
It's huge. It's huge, and it's in multiple layers, right? I think, like Kaká said, I think there's and Bastian Schweinsteiger, I think there's an element of the Real Madrid players that are here, they get a feel for it, that play against players in the league in this game and say, okay, the level's not that bad, the atmosphere is pretty good, maybe I'll move here to MLS at some point in my career. But yeah, now that MLS is on TV around the world, more and more players are getting a chance to see the product and see how much MLS is improving, and I think it definitely has an influence. And I think also for fans around the world that don't know much about MLS and just assume that it's a low-level league, it's as important for them. They tune in to see Kaká and Villa and Schweinsteiger, but what they end up seeing is Miguel Almiron. They end up seeing the guys that they don't know, Kellen Acosta, these younger players who are thriving in Major League Soccer that they don't know anything about. And that opens their eyes a little bit, too, about the growth of this league, especially in the last 3-4 years with targeted allocation money and the owners that have come in that are willing to spend. The quality has gone up, and I think that's, for me, the bigger moment for Major League Soccer.
Alicia, if nothing else, Bastian Schweinsteiger knows how to say things and draw attention. He mentioned that he thinks Major League Soccer could be on a level with some of the other leagues around the world in 10 years. I mean, that doesn't sound like something he's just making up. He's been pretty consistent since he's gotten here, thinking the same way.
Yeah, and I think actually you hear the same thing from a lot of the top players who come and play here, and some of the players from around the world that have come in and played friendlies here. PSG and Tottenham just played in Orlando, and I got to talk to a couple of those players, and I hear some of the same things. They're feeling that the league is growing, that it's growing at a quick pace, that it's not going to take too long until the level is at a level where people stop, cracking jokes about it or thinking that it's not on par with everything else. I don't think it's going to take too long to get there, and that mentality is growing across the world.
For me, the one thing I would say is that if you see our national team, the majority of the players now are playing domestically within this league. And for me, that's always a perfect mirror to see how strong any league is in the world, and our national team at the moment can compete on the playing field with everyone, any other team. So that's the positive thing for me, and I do agree with Paul, because games like this, it's opportunities with some of the younger players, because you're playing against Real Madrid, the whole world's watching. So for them, they're going to be excited also.
Just quickly, to jump in, Bastian Schweinsteiger said the exact same thing as Frank. It's often overlooked. We look at the big European guys that are playing in this league, but he kept pointing to Michael Bradley and saying how important it was for Americans, the top Americans, to play in Major League Soccer. He even mentioned Christian Pulisic as a guy that would benefit, or that the league would benefit to have him back. So I think that was a great point by Frank, and I think it's a big element of where this league is going to go.
Alicia, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Alicia Delgado of the Orlando Sentinel here in town to cover the Major League Soccer All-Star Game as they take on Real Madrid tomorrow night, Wednesday at Soldier Field. They kick a little after 8 o'clock. We come back, we're going to talk about the Chicago Fire, things that happened over the weekend, a loss, and then gearing up for a return home to Toyota Park. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Has got a dream, you know what I mean.
Hey, is this our turn? Honey, our turn?
Yeah, we go left right here. Great adventures are still out there. We'll find them in our Subaru Outback.
Love, it's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Get 0% APR financing for 63 months on all new 2017 Subaru Outback models, now through August 31st.
You can't experience the Canadian Rockies through a screen. You have to be here with us. Travel through this natural wonder and get a glimpse of amazing. With a glass of wine in one hand and a camera in the other. Aboard Rocky Mountaineer. Canada's Rocky Mountains await. Call your travel agent or Rocky Mountaineer for special offers now.
Hi, Russ for U.S. Waterproofing. Looking for a company to repair your home can be stressful. Look to us, as many of your neighbors have, like Mrs. O'Brien in Elmhurst. We sealed cracks in her crawl space. Or Mr. Weber in Orland Park. We installed a battery backup sump pump. And Mr. Kaplan in Northbrook. He needed structural repair after he noticed cracks in his brickwork. We've helped many of your neighbors.
Schedule your free consultation today at uswaterproofing.com. US Waterproofing. A better basement starts with us.
Go inside the lives of Chicago's biggest sports stars, only on Inside Look, presented by Cadillac. Your questions answered.
They got this big because basketball got this big.
Idols revisited.
They bring the atmosphere and the energy that you need throughout the grind of the season.
And the stories behind the headlines revealed.
I realized so many reasons why I'm back home.
Catch a new interview every month with Inside Look on CSN. Visit csnchicago.com for listings.
Welcome in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank. It is time now for Fire Field Vision powered by NovaCare. The Chicago Fire on the road the last couple of weeks. They had a loss at New York City FC and then a 3-2 defeat to Sporting Kansas City. They now return home, and that'll be a good thing. Frank, another game on the road against a good team in Sporting Kansas City. They had their guys back. Beasler was there. Oparo was there. It was a difficult performance. The Fire struggled in the first half. It looked like they were coming on, but just couldn't get that tying goal.
Yeah, it's been tough couple games, and I think we've talked about it before. When we looked at this team, they've been so consistent throughout the year, and then, they come back from this break, and you can definitely see the effects we talked about, the timing, the rhythm was off a little bit, the sharpness was off, and it continued. It was a little bit better this game, but I think the second goal, giving up that second goal right before halftime, and then you come out at halftime, 6 minutes in, and you give the third goal against that team that's the best defensive team in the league, it's difficult to come back from there. So I think there were some good moments, but overall I still think that the team is not where it should be.
In all sports, it seems like allowing a goal right before the half or right after the half starts, it's always a killer, and that's what the Fire did, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, sports is momentum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And goals change games, and I think Frank's right. That goal happening before you go into halftime down 1-0 or at 1-1, you feeling good about yourself.
Right.
To give up that goal and then that's what you're left with, right? You feel that in the locker room. You're thinking about that goal. And I think for me, the big disappointing thing if you're a Fire fan is, look, this was the first time all season Sporting Kansas City had given up 2 goals at home.
Mm-hmm.
If you score twice on this team, you expect to get a result.
Yes.
Going into the week, if I had said Fire are going to score twice, you're thinking they're getting at least a point. So to lose a game 3-2 to a team like this that just lost Dom Dwyer, very disappointing. I think the important thing, again, we talk about this all the time, but in Major League Soccer, you're going to have these moments where you go 2-3 games on the road where it's very difficult to get results and you lose games. And it's all about the response. Can you snap out of this streak sooner rather than later? This is a big game coming up at home against New England for that reason.
Yeah, and Frank, you played in the league, you coached in the league. How important is it, or is it just something that we're trying to make something out of, or at least I am, when you hear the players after the game, not only the coach, but the players say they didn't play poorly. They know what they did wrong. They know that they did not do what they needed to do to get the victory out there.
Yeah, listen, I think the players understand. I think when you don't have good games, and I think they're honest with their performance, and I think they're the first ones to go and say that. But that's why I felt that was an important game just to come back and drag, not so much to win, but to have a better performance, compete, to be sharper, to play better, because I knew after that game, you come into this All-Star break, you're going to be missing 4 guys. There's a lot of stuff going around town that you can lose your focus and concentration, and now you have a very important game coming up Saturday, and I agree with Paul. You have a team that's coming in that's desperate for points. They're coming up some good wins. They have some quality players that can hurt you. So, this game, this Saturday, it's a must-win game. I don't care if it's great soccer or whatever. You got to get back on track, and you got to find your rhythm in this match.
And, defending home field. I mean, the Fire did this not only this year, Paul, but you've brought it up a couple times last year as well. They were a very tough team to play here at Toyota Park. This year, 9-0-1. They want to protect their home field.
You have to in this league. It's so difficult to get results on the road. That winning at home and getting 3 points at home becomes a necessity for teams that want to be in the playoffs and teams that want to compete for Supporter Shield and MLS Cup. So, this game at home against an Eastern Conference team, that's a 6-point game. And when you look at the way the standings are breaking down right now, you've got the Red Bulls just 3 points behind the Fire. It's getting a lot tighter in the East right now. And a few more bad results, all of a sudden now you go from a first-place team before the Gold Cup break, maybe you're in 5th or 6th place. So this is just an absolutely massive game.
Yeah. And I think for me, when I look back at the last games that they played, the one away in Foxborough, which the team I felt dominated the game. Late in the game, I think there was a surge by New England, but I think they dominated the midfield of play with Schweinsteiger, with Juninho, and with Dax there. And what they did, they tried to overload the zone centrally, and then they created a lot of space for both outside backs. Now, Vincent was playing there with Polstra, and they had a massive game. And I think it's going to come into play again, because I think for me, the center of the field, if you have those three guys, if you can take control of that, because they do play mostly in a diamond formation, and I think the spaces are going to be wide, and they did an excellent job in both those matches, winning those games, and I think that's going to be equally important this Saturday.
And I think, Frank alluded to this, and it's, kind of the elephant in the room, but the situation with Akam,
Yes.
obviously, that's been out there, the contract talks and all of that stuff. You want that to come to a resolution of any kind. Because the locker room needs to move forward, and I think the player does, and everyone does for the good of the team. And I think we need to see where Akam is going to be with this team. Is he going to be starting? Is he going to be coming off the bench? I think that's factored in a little bit in these games as well. That's an element that I think it's a little bit controllable, and actually maybe helped by the All-Star game a little bit. That the team gets away a little bit. There's a slight break in the normal routine. But for me, if Akam is starting, he has the potential, as always, to be a game-breaking player, goals in the last two games. And if he can get isolated on the outside, like Frank says, he's got a chance to make some noise against New England.
The fans love him. Not only after he scores, he kisses the badge. When the game was over, he was one of the guys to go on over and clap for the fans that came out and supported him. He's one of the guys that is a difference maker speed-wise. There aren't many players in the league that have the kind of speed he has.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it. I think he can break the game open on his own. I think he's benefited from the other players around him. But you're right. I think he's a guy that can change the game on his own. Yeah.
We come back, we'll take a look at the opponent for this week as the New England Revolution are in town. A 7:30 start, 7 o'clock pregame if you can't get out here on CSN. And $2 hot dogs, as Frank was saying. I'm excited about that. $2 hot dogs presented by Red Hot Chicago. 7:30 start, 7 o'clock pregame. The Revolution in town. They've struggled on the road. We'll talk about that when we come back. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Oh, honey, it's time.
To go back to Lowe's? Yeah, this Valspar paint and primer in one really freed up the afternoon. Hey, how do you feel about tackling the kitchen?
Ooh, not great.
Okay, well, maybe we could finish up the basement then. I always wanted to get a pool table down there. I'm a bit of a shark.
And your wife is very much a pregnant chameleon.
Oh, what about a bar?
John.
Yo, that time.
Yeah.
Clean paint starts here. Save time with Valspar's paint and primer in one interior paints exclusively at Lowe's.
Find a location near you at chicago-fire.com/youth.
NovaCare is the right choice for all athletes. As the exclusive provider of physical therapy to the Chicago Fire, we know the importance of keeping you active. Our sports medicine program, along with our movement assessments, aids us in finding your weak link and designing a program for you. We offer a full array of home care products so you can continue your care when you're not here. To request an appointment at any of our convenient Chicago locations, visit NovaCare.com today. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. As you can tell by looking over our shoulder, we are not at the Private Bank Fire pitch. We were out at Toyota Park as they have the Unified game tonight, also the homegrown game leading up to Wednesday night's MLS All-Star game, taking on Real Madrid, an 8 o'clock start at Soldier Field. But this coming Saturday, the Chicago Fire return home. They take their 9-0-1 home record, and the New England Revolution coming to town. And guys, every time you think about the New England Revolution, you've got Kai Kamara, you've got some great attacking weapons on this team.
For me, this is one of the more talented teams, pure talent in the league. I mean, when you look at what they can bring in the final third of the field, I mean, Diego Fagundes, Kellen Rowe, Lee Wynn. I just reported today that the Revolution turned down a $1 million transfer offer for Lee Wynn. He's just too valuable to the team. And we don't talk about him that much.
Right.
We're busy talking about Agudelo and Kai Kamara and those guys. They're very dynamic, but the problem is they just haven't been able to fit everyone within the system. I think Kai Kamara hasn't really fit. He's looking for a move out, and then he goes and scores a couple goals in pretty good fashion on the weekend. So a lot to be concerned about defensively for the Fire.
It's the Valspar Primer presented by Valspar, the official paint of your Chicago Fire. Bunbury is another guy who's actually gotten a chance to play and has done pretty well for them of late. And you mentioned Kellen Rowe, and I know you mentioned Kellen Rowe a couple of weeks ago, because it seems like New England continues to put him at the left back position. He had an awesome pass to Bunbury. Bunbury was unable to convert, but you feel like he may be wasted a little bit at that left back position.
Listen, I just think Jay Heaps is trying to fit everyone on the field. He's got a left back, I think, that can be one of the best in the league in Tierney. And, you know, when you're trying to find a way to get Bunbury and Fagundes and Wynn and Kamara and Agudelo all on the field along with Rowe, well, what's the easiest solution? Well, let's just throw him at left back and he can still get forward and be effective from that spot. I think it showed with the U.S. national team that this is a guy who can be a difference maker in the final third. For me, this New England team screams as one that could potentially look to make a move with the assets that they have within the league to get better and to improve defensively.
I mean, I agree with Paul. I mean, I don't see him as a left back myself. You know, I mean, the kid is so much better, closer, you know, essentially in the midfield or in the final third. He's got great vision, excellent technique, excellent passing. He can make that final pass. But I think they put on there just to fit everyone in, but also bringing a guy like Caldwell centrally, I think he helps a little bit more on the defensive side. You know, Fagundes works hard, but at the end of the day, I think they try to free up Lee Wynn as much as possible, not to come back as much to defend and give him that energy. So when they win the ball, if they can find him in that final third and he's got those fresh legs, he can make a difference. 8 goals, 9 assists. You know, he's a leading scorer. I mean, and now you have Kai Kamara that's starting to score. Aguadelo's back, and for me, I think he's got tremendous talent. If he can stay healthy and find his form, he can be a force. So it's a team that they do have pace. You can be a little bit more direct. They're outside backs. I think Farrell does get forward. He's got a couple assists this time. I think they've improved defensively. So it's going to be an interesting match. You know, with them, Paul, I always feel like I agree with you. They have the quality that they're unpredictable, though. You know, they can be here or they can be down here. It's like it just depends who you get, you know, how you find them in that day.
Well, they just went and added another center back. They're trying to get stronger defensively. If he can come in and play the way Delamea played from day one, they're going to be a significantly better team.
He's a very good center back. The sources, the people that I've talked to, and they've seen him play, you know, he's a very good soccer player, and I think he's going to help them a lot. So it depends where do they fit him. So it's an improved team. It's a team that's won some games. They're coming in with a lot of confidence, and it's a massive, massive game. You know, it's a massive of both teams.
Yes. Well, you know, you talk a little bit about teams and how you have to protect your home field, and that's something they do. Away from Gillette Stadium, they're 0-7-3. They've struggled on the road. And the Chicago Fire, obviously, without a road loss. But when these two teams met earlier this year, the Fire held on. Well, let's be honest, they held on because that was a game where they just kept throwing everything at them at the end of the contest.
But let's not forget, that was the home. I mean, the game that they played here, things changed because Watson got that second yellow on Solinac, so they were playing shorthanded from the start. It was a difficult game. The Fire won that one 3-0. The game that they last played in New England, the Fire won 2-1. They went up 2-0, some great goals. We talked about it. We broke them down. The first one, Delamea following the run of Solinac, and then, you know, Nikolic makes a great run. Cropper makes the initial save. The ball comes to him. He scores. But the second goal was beautiful. Just the movement, you know, with the forwards. One coming, one going. And that's what they miss a little bit. You know, I think right now, even when I look at the last game, you know, the forwards making similar runs. So they got to get that cohesion back. You know, and then late, yes, they defended a little bit, but that's what it's going to take on the road, you know, to get a result.
Listen, it's one of the more underrated home venues as far as difficulty to go play at Gillette Stadium, okay? There's not a great atmosphere because it's a huge NFL stadium and not huge crowds. It's turf. You're in the middle of nowhere as the team. You know, you stay at the hotel right there next to Gillette. It's not easy to go play on that surface, and I think that we've definitely seen that this season with New England, but they're going to need to pick up some results on the road if they want to catch up in the East.
It's a big one for the Chicago Fire as they return home to take on the New England Revolution. The game gets underway at 7:30 this coming Saturday night. You can get on out here, get your tickets now, chicago-fire.com. And also, don't forget the $2 hot dogs presented by Red Hot Chicago. We come back, we're going to have a chance to talk with a former Chicago Fire player when we return at Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
This golden opportunity features steel, titanium, and carbon fiber. Raw elements made exhilarating by Lexus. Experience uncompromising performance at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event before it ends.
Lease the 2017 IS Turbo for $299 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
You can't experience the Canadian Rockies through a screen. You have to be here with us. Travel through this natural wonder and get a glimpse of amazing. With a glass of wine in one hand and a camera in the other. Aboard Rocky Mountaineer. Canada's Rocky Mountains await. Call your travel agent or Rocky Mountaineer for special offers now.
Hey, sports fans, the Bulls Sox Academy, the official youth training facility of the Chicago Bulls and White Sox, is running summer camp in over 50 communities around Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. These camps are an awesome opportunity for all young fans to learn to play the games the right way, straight from the pros. Besides learning all the fundamentals, each athlete will receive an exclusive stadium tour, have an opportunity to meet current or former players, and much more.
Mariah Haberman here from Discover Wisconsin. Join me and the rest of the DW crew every week on this station for all things Wisconsin. Find us on social media right now for gorgeous photos and great Wisconsin giveaways. Speaking of free stuff, did you know every month we give away an exciting vacation? This month you could win a prize package to Wisconsin Rapids. Just visit discoverwisconsin.com for details. Saturday mornings at 10 on Comcast Sportsnet.
Welcome back in. Chicago Fire Weekly presented by the Private Bank. Fred Hubner, Frank Klopas, Paul Tenorio. The guy in the middle, you Fire fans probably know. Kalen Carr, former member of the Chicago Fire, working now for MLSsoccer.com. Also, you can catch him along with Susanna Collins on This Week in MLS. Kalen, thanks for jumping on in.
It's so nice to be back, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and being back, that's nice. You were here for 5 years and spent some time here in Chicago. It's got to be a lot of fun coming back. A lot of old friends.
You know what's funny is I was just walking through the stadium here, and I realized I haven't been here since I came with Houston to play a game, I think 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So just to be back, I'm remembering all the moments of warming up, seeing the fans, Section 8, of course, my guy, Frankie.
I think Kalen got younger. I'm telling you, we're getting older, he got younger. Everyone remembers him with the long hair, and I'm looking at him, I'm saying, what the heck? They see you stop playing football, you get younger. Look at him.
That's what happens.
Everybody has been asking me, where's the headband? So maybe I need to bring that back.
Need to bring it back for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Kalen, I mean, having been in Chicago, I think what people don't realize maybe and are starting to see this week and probably we'll see tomorrow night, how much of a soccer city Chicago is. Because obviously of the different influences, the large Polish community, German community, Mexican community, the city loves the game, and we found out it's going to be a sellout tomorrow. What are your kind of memories of how much the city does enjoy the sport?
Well, I remember moving here the first time, and Section 8 came to the first event, knew everything about me, knew my mom, what she did for work, what I studied in college, told me all the recommendations of the best places to eat in Chicago, and just really welcomed me with open arms. Everywhere you go around downtown, I used to live in the city, people were like, oh, I love the Fire. It seems this is the best sports town in the country. It really is. And the Fire are a big part of that. And I think this week is really special because the world's eyes really are on Chicago and the soccer scene particularly. And it's well-deserved for Chicago to get a little shine.
You're a guy that played in the league when a lot of the players weren't making all that much money. Were you a little bit late? I mean, a lot of these players now are making some good cash. Even the players that are, deeper on the bench, they're making money, and that's got to be great for the league.
No, it's good. It's good to see the league grow. That is the unfortunate part of life where, maybe you didn't quite get everything. But to me, I take a lot of pride in being a part of the growth, and now still being a part of it. A lot of what I'm doing now with the league is to highlight the movement is the show that I do, and it is about the growth of the soccer culture in North America. And so it's great to see the league growing. You see big stars, Schweinsteiger, Dax McCarty is a guy, he used to live down the street from me in New York, so I'm sad to see him go, but happy to see him come to the Men in Red.
I wonder from a player's perspective, we've debated a little bit about the format of this All-Star game. MLS is definitely deep enough now to go east-west, but I see the value in playing the Real Madrid, and because it puts the eyeballs on the league. What's your perspective on the format?
You know what? I like it the way it is, but I remember being a kid in high school, and I went to the All-Star game in San Jose, and I remember Landon Donovan scored, took off his shirt. He had a Brandy Chastain sports bra on. It was just kind of like a silly, fun thing. This has turned a little bit more serious. It'll still be fun. It's about a celebration on the field. The guys should be able to have the freedom to try some stuff. I don't put a ton of stock into the result. I know some people might. I think MLS is at a place where we should be a little more self-confident than if we lose to Real Madrid in a friendly. That doesn't really an indictment on the state of the league. I think it's more a chance to see Cristiano Ronaldo or a guy like that, all the top players, Modric, that are going to be playing here, and also for young guys to get a chance from MLS to show off their skills in front of a bigger audience.
Kaylin, I mean, I've stopped playing very long time ago, and I've seen
Frankie, you still got it.
The tremendous growth in the league in many different ways. I mean, you haven't stopped playing. I mean, you still look fit like you can play. What's been the one thing that's impressed you the most, and since you've stopped playing?
I think for me, it's the youth movement. I think when I came into the league with the Fire, it was hard to break through into the first team, get minutes. A lot of my minutes were building off the bench early on in my career here in Chicago. But now you see the young guys who are coming in and really being leaned on right away to play. You see guys all across the league, from Jordan Morris, Christian Roldan in Seattle. They helped lead their team to a championship. You're starting to see that pay off with the national team. And it's really been incentivized by the clubs to develop in the youth academy systems that really weren't around when I was coming up, and I think that's the biggest change for me.
You see the last couple of years stadiums, you see Orlando. Now they're waiting for Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's all ready. They finished up their Bobby Dodd stay, from what I understand, and now they're ready to go to the big place. It's got to be exciting, not only for people that support Atlanta, but for the entire league.
Well, the expansion part is also the other big change that I've seen, where you see these teams coming in. I was at Orlando's opening this year. I went to Bobby Dodd, saw that atmosphere. It is wild. I'm going to be at their September 10th opener down in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So that's an unlikely place. You don't think of Orlando as potentially really a soccer market, same with Atlanta, but they're proving that MLS does extend to these other areas. I think the one thing when you look at it from the Fire's perspective is that there's a lot of new excitement around these new teams, but to me, this story shouldn't get lost, right? The fans here in Chicago deserve to get the credit, and that's why I think a week like this can go a long way to be like, hey, remember Section 8, remember Sector Latino, remember the fans here in Chicago, and this is a soccer market as well.
Kaylin, Chicago always welcomes you back. Thanks a lot for coming in.
Guys. Yeah.
Kaylin Carr from MLSsoccer.com. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks to Andrew Wiebe from MLSsoccer.com. Also, Alicia Delgado from the Orlando Sentinel. The Chicago Fire home this weekend. They take on the New England Revolution. 7:30 at Toyota Park. A 7 o'clock pregame. You can catch it on CSN. Fire trying to improve and stay unbeaten at home. Thanks for watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire.